At this time, I'd like to call up United States Representative for Hawaii's 1st Congressional District, Congressman Ed Case.
To my colleague and friend, Congressman Kahele, our incredible guests that are here today, and to our friends in Ohana that are watching, aloha. You know, as I stand with you here today, and as I am with you today, I have so many conflicting thoughts and emotions. We, of course, here are on hallowed ground. We are on ground that for centuries now has stood for the very best of humanity, and yet we are on ground that would at a bare minimum tolerate the overthrow of the Hawaiian people. We are on ground that has advocated and advanced equality, opportunity, compassion, and justice, and yet has seen so much toleration and tragedy towards our country's indigenous peoples. We're on ground, but just 6 or 8 months ago, we celebrated the passing of one of the great icons of the civil rights movement, John Lewis. And yet, it is this very ground that saw an attack on our capital by our own fellow citizens. A lot of contradictions. And yet this was also the ground that Kuhio came to 120 years ago. He spoke then of the urgency and despair of a people facing extinction in their own land, and that was no idle concern. It had happened to other indigenous peoples throughout our country and throughout the world. There were just perhaps 40,000 Native Hawaiians left in the world. The life expectancy of Native Hawaiians in 1910 was 30 years. They were increasingly living not on the land, but in the tenements of Honolulu in dire circumstances. And yet, Kuhio entrusted his people to this still new country, a country that frankly had not shown that it was deserving of that trust. The Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, as Congressman Kahele has said, was his singular accomplishment. But what was Kuhio's legacy? What did it all add up to? You know, history is fickle. We're all judged by our successes and failures, our achievements and our shortcomings, always in hindsight, of course. But I would say this about Kuhio, looking from the distance of history and as someone who is not myself Native Hawaiian. First of all, he was the right person at the time, not just for Native Hawaiians, but for all of us whose ancestry and blood lies in Hawaii. The Kanaka Maoli did not, unlike many of their brothers and sisters, fade from this earth. In fact, you now number hundreds of thousands throughout our country, fulfilling responsibilities at every level of government and society. And finally, I would say that Kuhio, as the first Native Hawaiian leader to step forward on the national stage, showed what proud and principled and capable Hawaiian leadership is, and set the example for so many of us going down the road. But history is never complete, and today we are just at one moment in history, and the Hawaiian Homes Commission is a perfect example. As one Kanaka Maoli leader said recently, she said it was beautifully conceived and yet imperfectly administered, implemented. And it is its own story, and now we have to turn that page, and today I follow and support Congressman Kahele in finding the next chapter. For yesterday's achievements are just tomorrow's foundations, and yesterday's failures are just tomorrow's opportunities. And so I am sit here with you all, just so deeply humbled with the responsibility for all of us, for whom Hawaii is our home, partner with you in these next chapters of renewed opportunity and hope. Mahalo.